Okay, so this unit is dealing with different ways to write numbers or notation. So most of the problems are going to start with an inequality symbol, which you see on the left. And depending on what's given, there's going to be different ways we can either graph that inequality to show all of the numbers that are possible, but we also want to focus on, without a picture graph, how to write that in what is called interval notation. So I'm going to do both of these, and your practice will include both of them as well. The visual typically helps a lot of students understand how to write it in interval notation, so they can be used together. So let's review some of the rules. It might be a while since you've graphed an inequality on a number line. So there's two things to do. The first thing is you're going to be given the number line and you need to figure out what kind of circle to use. And the type of circle depends on the symbol. So an open circle means that the answer does not include the value, but that is the starting point. And so that's shown by using a less than or a greater than symbol. All right. A closed circle on an inequality graph means that the value is included and it's starting your answers. And so the symbols that you'll see are less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. And so that's how you know what kind of dot circle that you'll use on the graph. So as a refresher, because sometimes this gets confusing, this symbol, remember, means greater as long as your variable's on the left side, and this symbol means less or smaller than. Okay, like if you have x on this side and a number, x, and then this. So I'm going to first start with a graph of an inequality, and then I'm going to show you how to take that graph or inequality and write it as an interval. Okay, so the first example is x is less than 3. So on a number line, my critical value is 3, and that's going to be my starting value. We need to show the circle whether it includes 3 or we're going to start at 3, like 3.1, 2.9, if it's greater or smaller. So we look at the symbol. So this symbol is less. It doesn't have the line under it, which means that we're going to use an open circle on 3. And so you're going to see an open circle right there. That's our starting point. But 3 is not an answer. And we want to shade all the numbers that are less than 3 because those would be the solutions. So less is to the left or smaller because like here's 2, here's 1. And even if these numbers aren't here, we know smaller numbers are to the left. And so we're going to indicate all of our answers by drawing a line to the left. And so this would be our graph. Now, notation. Some of your classes might have taught interval notation, but this might be new to everybody. So if we look at the rules, interval notation, it's going to use two numbers. We're going to use a left number or the low value and a right number or a high value. Parentheses are going to be used on a number if the endpoint is not included. And so that would be like an open circle. A bracket is going to be used if it is included, like a closed circle. Okay. Now, there is one rule that you need to remember. Parentheses will always be used if you have infinity or negative infinity because we can't include infinity. You can always have one number bigger. All right? So this might not make any sense, but let's do some examples to help. So if you're looking at a graph, the left side is over here and the right side. And I'm looking at the green graph right here, see? So on the left, we're going to keep going. And so that number really is getting smaller and smaller and smaller on the number line. And so we represent that left number with negative infinity. So this goes low to high or left to right. So on the left, I'm going to put negative infinity because that's the number that's on the left of my graph. Now on the right side, we stopped at 3. There's always a comma between them. So now we need to figure out if we use brackets or parentheses. So we always use parentheses with infinity. Now, the three is an open circle, which means it's not included, and so that gets a parenthesis. And so this is it. It's all the numbers from negative infinity to 3 and not including either one. That's what that symbol would mean. Let's do another example. So this one says x is greater than or equal to 3. So I know 3 is our critical number. And this symbol means I'm going to use a closed circle because we can include 3 as an answer. So I'm going to do this. Close that circle in. And we want all the numbers that are greater than 3. So greater is to the right. And so we show that by drawing our line. Okay, so this would be our graph. So let's go over to interval notation. We've got left and right. So on our graph, we're looking at the purple graph now. The left side is right here and the right side is that. So on the left, we start at 3. On the right, we're going to keep going. So we would have like 4, 5, 6, and we're going to keep going to show that in numbers, that's going to be positive infinity. We don't have to put the plus there. It's implied if it's not written. So now we decide if we want brackets or parentheses. So the 3 is filled in, which means it's included, and that gets a bracket. Infinity is never included, so we use a parenthesis. So this means it's all the numbers from 3 to infinity, including 3, if you would say that in words. Let's do another example. So this one is a compound inequality, so we're going to put them together. We want all the numbers that are bigger than -2 and smaller than 5. That's how we read it together. So I'm looking at -2 and 5. So -2, we can include -2, so we get a closed circle. And we want the numbers bigger. So when the variable's in the middle, you read it backwards. So x is bigger than -2. And so that goes this way. And then I look here. We want all the numbers that are smaller than or equal to 5. So because we have the line there, we get a closed circle on 5. And we want all the numbers smaller. And so you'll notice our arrows are going between, and so that means we're shading all of the numbers between those two. When they're written together, it's like the word and. Okay, so interval notation. We've got left and right. So on the left of the red graph is this side, and on the right of the red graph is that. So on the left, our critical number is -2. On the right side, our critical number is 5. So let's figure out brackets or parentheses. So the -2 is included, that gets a bracket. The 5 is also included, that gets a bracket. So see how I do them separately? All right, let's try one more. So this says we want, we've got the word or, so these are split up. So we've got all the numbers that are less than or equal to -2. So -2 is critical. And we want all the numbers that are less than or equal to. So we get a filled in circle. And less is to the left, so smaller. And then we can have all the numbers that are bigger than 5. So bigger than 5, not included, so this is an open circle, and bigger is to the right. So a lot of times with the word or, your graphs will be separate. And so what that means is we're going to have 2 intervals because they're not connected and we have 2 different lines. So we're going to have to do this twice. So on the first one, we've got left and right, and on the second one, left and right. Okay? So let's do the first one. So on the left side, well, we'd have -2, -3, -4, -5. On this side, that's really getting smaller and smaller and smaller, so that left number is -infinity. The right side is -2. So brackets and parentheses. We never include infinity, that always gets a parenthesis. We do include, we've got that filled in, so that gets a bracket. All right, the next interval on the left, we've got 5. On the right, well, we're bigger, bigger, bigger. 6, 7, 8. The bigger number is represented by infinity, positive infinity. So the 5 is open. That means we can't include it. That gets a parenthesis. And infinity always gets a parenthesis. Okay? So on your practice, you've got, trying to move it, matching. Oops. You've got matching. So you'll match the graphs to the inequalities and you'll drag them to the right box. And then the interval answers are here and you'll drag those to the right box. Okay? So give those a try and email me if you have any questions.